Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FPV news. Good to see you again, Blunty. Did you like those?
Yeah.
You didn't like those GIFs. I know you didn't. You're not entertained by my shenanigans. You tolerate them.
You know. Yeah.
Hey,
That's a good way to put it.
The world needs Linuses and the world needs Lukes. Oh my God, that makes me the Linus.
Yes, it does.
Not sure how I feel about that.
I think we've already previously established.
I mean,
your role as the Linus. Yeah.
In the whole sort of straight man versus whatever the guy who isn't the straight man, in that dichotomy, sure, but
But
I'd
I've also
like
had
to
to like. We also do the thing where you're like, you would have stopped me, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I feel like
Yeah.
there's levels to your Linusness.
I feel like I'm not as bad as Linus.
That's true.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome. We will be talking about news in the world of FPV, and we've got some big ones. Oh, there's a PSA today that is perhaps the most egregious PSA we've maybe ever had. I don't know. Is that selling it too much?
Yeah, I think that's on it too. In certain situations, you'll be like, "Holy crap, this is crazy! I didn't know what happened." But like, and I can't believe this was happening. But it's also like may not impact many people much, right? I think
That's the nature of PSAs. Actually, you've just described what our PSAs are. Yes. Oh boy, is it that time again? Leaks of new DJI stuff. So of course that's news. Why would we not cover that? But let's get into the PSAs, the public service announcements. And the first one, go ahead.
The first one is talking about remote ID. And we've talked about remote ID for a long time. And when we last left you, we had talked about rumors of an enforcement delay in remote ID. And that is what we got. We got an enforcement delay by the FAA. If you actually pull up that third link first, let's use that.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Third link. So this is the one the Federal Register posted. And they basically, to be clear, what they say is for non-compliance with remote ID operating requirements applicable to UAS, which occurs on or before March 16th, 2024, so that's 6 months away, the FAA will consider all circumstances, in particular unanticipated issues with the available supply and excessive cost of remote ID broadcast modules, and an unanticipated delay in the FAA's approval of FRIAs, the areas where we can fly without remote ID, while exercising its discretion in determining whether to take enforcement action. So you might notice that does not say the rule has been delayed.
Right.
It does not say the rule is not in effect.
Right.
It says we'll consider that you might not have been able to buy a module if you get in trouble. Right.
Right. The federal agencies have wide discretion in how they enforce regulations. I don't see any problem with that. But I also could see the benefit of, it's why court cases are decided by a judge and not a robotic algorithm that is, and a jury, which are humans who use their judgment to make calls. And what we're seeing here is the FAA exercising that discretion. I really don't feel like they're like, doing us a favor by saying, hey, guys, we realize that things are going just as badly as you all predicted they would.
Right. The things we said were going to happen didn't happen. And because of that, we'll let you slide, maybe. Okay, great.
Right. But the takeaway from this is that if you've heard the headline, remote ID delayed by 6 months, it does not mean just forget about it for 6 months. Or, I don't know, some of you have already forgotten about it, right? Yeah. It means that the FAA, you got a little more leeway. But, and what I said was, even if they had delayed it by 6 months, that just means you kick the can down the road. You're still going to have to answer the questions about how you will or will not comply not today or tomorrow. It's not going away. So you got a little bit of leeway, I guess, is the takeaway.
Yeah. And so we want to get as much information as we could about this. One thing they did, there's a group called the Drone Responders, and they had a meeting with the FAA. The Drone Responders is like search and rescue public safety guys that all get together on a call. So our first story here is about that. And basically, in so many words, they're telling you, don't wait. This isn't an indication that you could just wait until March to order your module, right?
Or not order your module.
Right. So
sorry, I'll just keep doing that.
Mike O'Shea from the FAA said it's important that when you're able to comply, you do comply. And then John Meehan from the FAA says, think about your mission sets, think about what you're going to need. If you need it in March, you need it now. So while officially they're going to consider options, they're telling public safety, they're telling people who are on this call, they're telling everyone otherwise, you still need to work to try to comply. If there's 15 modules out there available for sale, so now on the other side of this, will any enforcement happen? Do we actually expect anything to go on from this? It's probably a no, right? And previously the FAA has always just kind of patted you on the wrist and gone, hey, you should have a module and we're warning you, that sort of thing, right? I personally expect, that what we'll see from this is in the next 6 months, 2 to 5 people who do extremely egregious things will essentially have their head put on a pike and will still be prosecuted under remote ID rules for either disabling remote ID on a DJI drone, refusing to update as required, or not having a module like they're supposed to. That would be my guess.
That makes sense. We have, and obviously we can't predict the future, but we've seen the FAA in the past try to make examples of particularly egregious people, and that we know that the FAA is very concerned with messaging. Like they'll take someone and instead of fining them, they'll say, will you make a video saying what you did wrong and helping educate people? And they have a carrot and a stick approach where they'll take one guy who flew his drone and should have had a 107 or shouldn't have flown over people, and he'll make a public facing video saying, I was bad, I didn't know, the FAA was nice to me, don't be bad. And they'll be like, good job. Or they'll take somebody and they'll try and just pile fines on them as a way of saying, don't be this guy. So yeah, they are not saying remote ID, we'll just forget about it for 6 months. And for example, I made a video where I had a remote ID module. Well, it's going to be hard for somebody like me to argue that, oh, I couldn't get a remote ID module. That's why I was flying without one. I literally, they know, oh, I lost it. I lost it in a boating accident. Oops.
And we're not lawyers, obviously. None of this can be taken as rules or anything you should follow, because
That's true.
There's plenty of arguments in both directions, right? Okay, you promised it would be $50. The cheapest one is $80 to $100, not on sale, right?
Yeah.
So then, is it fair for me to have to order that when you said it wasn't? Is that part of your enforcement delay, right? And then how can you prove that it was available for me to purchase? Is it just because it was available for the greater public? Should I have known where these locations are to purchase it? There's no official listing, right? There's all these weird pieces that we just don't know about. But the main thing here, I would say, is the average user is not going to get in trouble for this. Most people will not have any problems with this. And when you get ramp checked by the FAA, if somebody was ever to walk up on you, they're not even going to ask like where you got your module. You know what I mean? Like it's very loose. So I wouldn't worry too much.
Confessor in the Discord has a good point, which is that they will just tack on remote ID infractions when you do something else dumb, which is another strategy we've seen them employ. You fly over a stadium, you land at an airport or otherwise do some dumb shit. When they pile on the infractions, the remote ID is going to be one of them. But it's probably not going to be the only thing you get dinged for.
I expect we'll also see some headlines going, remote ID helped us catch this guy who flew next to an airport because we got his ID, right? Like I'm sure we'll see a lot of those stories coming out as well.
I'm trying to figure out how hard to roll my eyes. And I haven't got the energy. But pretend that I rolled my eyes really bad. Okay, let's move on to the next PSA.
Yeah, the next PSA, this is big or small, or I don't know. You tell us what you think about this. So this is kind of crazy. So MatchTech has reported on this issue, and it is a repeatable issue, that if you have HDZero goggles, specifically, and Avatar is also affected, but mainly HDZero goggles, and you run your Crossfire at 250 watts to 1 watt, even in
milliwatts.
You're right, even in dynamic. 250 milliwatts to 1 watt, even in dynamic power mode. Putting that antenna either near the front of the goggles, near the goggles face, or down the power cord in an orientation with the power cord will cause the goggles to shut off and reset. And sometimes the goggles will not reboot on their own, and you need to use the power cable.
All right, let's see it happen.
It will also do it, though, via the power cable too, and that's why I've got it stretched out. Because the first thing I want to do is show you the behavior, and then I'll show you it with the battery power cable too, to show you where it sort of kicks in. So what I'm going to do is hold the HDZero goggles here. I'm just going to pick up my radio there, and what I'm going to do is begin to move the radio close to the goggles, and as you can see there, they've rebooted. Now, at that point, you can hear that the fans actually stopped working. They're kicking in again now, and the goggles will reboot. Now,
oh my goodness gracious. That's extraordinary.
So it happens with the power cable, and it happens with the goggle face. It seems to be any 900 megahertz link. He tests a different 900 megahertz transmitter he has, and it also happens with that. It's just most users are going to be on Crossfire. We presume it would happen with ELRS 900 as well. No reason to think it wouldn't.
Right. 900 megahertz is famous for causing all kinds of interference. You heard the buzzing coming from his microphone. I've had issues when I flew Crossfire as my daily with the lavalier mic that I would wear on my chest. It's not a wireless mic, but just having the Crossfire held on my belly, next to me, if I was above about 250 milliwatts, I'd get buzzing. And so it's not a surprise that this is happening, although we have to point out that it doesn't happen. So it doesn't happen to Walksnail. What does Walksnail do?
It does. So Walksnail has an effect. If you hold the antenna too close, he shows this in the video too, but if you hold the antenna too close, essentially the goggles will internally, you can hear a change. So it sounds like the fans either kick on or off. And then also the USB video out was shutting off on him, but he could look in and the receiver was still active, and you could see
the goggles keep working. So that's good. And DJI goggles, no effect whatsoever, because
they seem to have enough shielding because of the way they're built that they're covered for that sort of thing. And as MatchTech points out, HDZero never had to build in shielding because they don't transmit, so they don't have to have an FCC ID, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
Walksnail really should have, because they got an FCC approval for the product, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think we can expect that HDZero will be on this quickly, that they will come up with some kind of a plan to remediate it. Carl's usually on these things.
I'd be interested to know what that is. Like, I could only assume it's only future hardware, right? You can't like shield hardware that's already out.
They could publish. I mean, they could publish some kind of a method of putting shielding inside the goggles. They did that with the antenna issue that was raised after the goggles were first released. They came up with an aftermarket fix for people who already had the goggles. It's theoretically possible that they would have some instructions. It's not outside the realm of possibility that they would offer some kind of a recall for people who are worried about this and repair them in the factory.
I don't think this is recall worthy. I think this is like normal behavior for 900 megahertz and high power. You're set next to some goggles, right?
But these are FPV goggles. It is completely within normal expectations that they would be in proximity to a high-powered Crossfire transmitter. For them to completely shut off and reboot under that circumstance, I don't think it's like when Radio Master modules had that bug where if you plugged in a battery, it would fry your radio. Right. That was like, shut up, recall every one of them, get them off the market, right? This is not that. But like if a user was like, I don't feel comfortable using these goggles, I could see HDZero saying, look, if you want, we'll take them back and we'll repair them in some way. But what is that going to be? Like adding shielding? I don't know.
Right. People are pointing out too that the power cable would also need to be shielded, or you need to provide some alternative solution to that too, right? Since it seems to be traveling down the power cable. Like an inductor.
They just put like an inductor on the power cable. Obviously, like that. How hard could it be? He said, not knowing much about like. I would guess that Carl is on this, if he's aware of it, which I assume Madstech has notified him. So, well, if there is an update, we will let you know as it comes out. But in the meantime,
main thing is just so I think the main thing this will happen, like the main time anybody would see this is if you're wearing your goggles, you have a battery in your pocket, right?
Right.
And you've got the wire coming down your side of your body.
Bingo.
And you turn or move your Crossfire antenna to be oriented with it. So I think like in most cases it's never going to be triggered, but if you know the case where it could be, now you can attempt to avoid it.
Yeah. Just going to throw this in there. Thank you, Black Jungle, for the meme. That's a good one.
Same page there for sure.
That's a good one. And mostly just don't effing do this, but the power cable is the one that would really, surprise people.
Yeah, I think so, because that's where I think most of this is going to
did Madstech discover this, or did someone else discover it and he made a video about it first?
I assume someone else discovered it, but I didn't see him. I may have missed it, but I didn't see him attribute this to anybody.
Okay, well, credit to Madstech, unless he's not the one who discovered it, in which case credit to him for making us aware of it, and credit to whoever discovered it. Yes. Wesley Vardy just recommends sending out free Express LRS 2.4 gigahertz modules, and this won't happen. 2.4 gigahertz. There you go. Okay. Next up. Oh my goodness. Blunty. It's been so long.
It has been a long time since we've had a good DJI rumor that seems to be somewhat substantiated.
DJI rumors.
So today,
jingle.
We had a couple things happen yesterday, around this time period, the last couple days here. So Drone NR dug into the firmware where we've seen things pop up previously. I believe this was inside of DJI Assistant firmware, and then the Fly app on the phones. And they were able to dig through and find out some new product codes that DJI has put into the firmware, and we know from history. Basically, every time this has happened, new products have come along with it. And so in the naming scheme, they found ZV902, and we know that Goggles 2 was ZV900, Goggles Integra was 901. So it certainly seems like DJI Goggles X, whatever the new goggles would be, is 902. It really matches up, right? Makes perfect sense. Also, there's a new drone coming. So DJI Mini 4 Pro was teased today by DJI. If you saw that tease go out, they're announcing that on the 25th. We've seen FCC filings for that. That's the WA140. DJI Air 3 has already been in there, the WA233. And then we've got WA520, which is DJI X. The WA520 is that new code again. So the DJI X seems to be a new drone. I will say, because of the numbering and the information, it seems like it's not, it's not a Mini and it's not an Air. It's along the same lines, but most likely, from all the signs, it seems to point to it being another Avata DJI FPV drone, that category that would ship alongside of a goggle. That's what I'm hearing in the background.
Why? It's really soon for a new set of goggles. The goggles 2 just came out. The Integra is sort of an extension of that.
Well, the S2 chip has been on all the new hardware from DJI. So like all the new drones are shipping with this S2 chip. So the thought process is it's just a new version of the S1, the P1, like all the chips they've had. DJI's had all these chips in their hardware.
AV1 encoding. Oh. We got H264, H265, maybe AV1 is a new, even better kind of video encoding.
Right. I think that's an NVIDIA thing, though. Right?
Well, NVIDIA does it, but I don't think they invented it.
Okay.
That would be cool. I just made that up. Hey, DJI, get on it.
So as far as it seems like to be the case that we have an S2 series of things coming out, which would be that OcuSync 4 or whatever the term they're using is for the new version of the link and the new quality that you could achieve and things like that. So, I mean, that's the idea. And then also China's trademark registry showed a new trademark last month for a new product called the Avinox from DJI. And if you think about what would come after the Avata, the Avinox isn't crazy as a name, right? Avata doesn't mean anything anyway. So we've got a name that could be a drone. We've got definitely a drone in the firmware, and we've got definitely a set of goggles in the firmware that seem to go together. So we could very well be seeing new FPV gear coming eventually, right? We don't have typically we see like a decent sized windowed release on this stuff where we get teasers of boxes coming out, we get little hints of the drone pictures. The early creators are going to get these things ahead of time to start reviews and testing, so we're going to get, this should be layered out over the next six months, I would guess. I feel like that's probably the time frame we're looking at. I don't really know, but I would guess 3-6 months plus here. We really don't know. So they've been moving pretty fast on this S2 stuff, it seems like.
The chat is telling me that AV1 is open source, unlike H264 and H265. So AV1 is actually the codec that we're using right now to stream from my computer to YouTube. And the long story short just offers noticeably better image quality per bit rate. So if you're streaming at whatever, 4 megabits per second, it's the equivalent of streaming at a higher bit rate, basically.
So I'm gonna pose a speculation out there, random speculation. Fortune says, I genuinely don't understand the why. Okay, now if you think about it, they could just be DJI and be like, we got to have the best stuff, we're making new stuff, we're iterating all we want because who cares, we're going to make all the best hardware, we're pushing every direction forward, great, right? Or what if the S2 chip is the only thing they can get, right? Maybe they're running out of the old chips, right? We don't know that.
Oh, that's
There have been manufacturing issues. They might have moved companies. I've heard rumors of that. So, like, what if they just don't have S1 and P1s to keep going with? Like, again, I can't substantiate that, but I mean, that would be a reason to push all your stuff really fast into S2, move into a new realm of things. But again, total speculation.
All right. Well, we have to see what it is. We have to see what the S2 chip brings to the table. It would be super. I mean, like, I don't know how feasible it is. For example, you would need a system on a chip that can do AV1 encoding, and right now it is the realm of desktop GPUs. So I don't know how good it is on an SoC. But my goodness, we saw a big improvement when we went from H264 to H265 between the Vista and the O3. And we know that AV1 performs even better than H265. That would be really... I just made that up. Now I just am hoping that someday that happens, and it'd be so cool if it did. Okay.
All right.
All right. Confirmed. AV1 coming in the new goggles. Great. What's next, Blunty?
Okay, another big news thing kind of happened today. I guess, the DJI thing was the last few days, but today... last night, really, there was a message posted on the Drone Racing League Discord by TK. That's Canoodle, for the people who don't know. Canoodle runs all the sim races, announces the tryouts, organizes weekly races in... no idea why.
Okay. Well, hang on. Just in case. Okay, we're good to go. There's unfortunately Fortunately, there's no erotic imagery. It's just Discord screenshots. Ooh, so hot.
So the first one we got is from TK. He says it's been an incredible past 9 to 10 years with us in community. First ever drone racing podcast to DRL. Unfortunately, DRL is going in different directions and has had to lay off a lot of us. I don't have details nor answers to questions. Once I know something more, I'll let you know. So this was last night at 7:30 local my time. TK posted this. We saw a couple other Discord mods and people say that they had also been let go. And then today I dug through LinkedIn and found a couple more people. And this is concerning because we see staff accountant and event production have also been let go.
Right. If they were just like firing the social team, or they were like, the Discord server, it's not worth it anymore, be like, okay. But if you're letting your accountant go, that's not a good sign for your business.
Yes. And then I was able to confirm from another source that wanted to stay anonymous that they laid off most of the tech ops team, the event ops team, and most other departments in the company, from what they said. And that seemed like a good, solid source. So the other thing is TK just did a final race, like an official final race before he signed off. I might still be going, but they might have just ended it. But TK basically said, a large portion of the crew was laid off because of lingering financial problems. That's what they're claiming.
I mean,
which obviously is how layoffs work, right?
I'm not surprised to hear if DRL had financial problems, and of course we don't have official confirmation of any of that, but if they did, it wouldn't surprise me. They were hit hard in 2020 by the inability to have in-person races. Like the earlier seasons had been extremely just very interesting, going around the world, going around the country, flying in interesting locations, having in-person races, televising them. I don't know whether it was ever profitable, but it certainly had some momentum. And 2020, it seems like, to my mind, really derailed that. They had a completely simulator season for reasons which we are all aware of. And, as much as I love seeing people race in the simulator, it just wasn't, to me, at its core, what DRL is trying to be. And I wonder if in some sense they never really recovered from that.
Yeah, I would also. So in 2021, we saw a $100 million 5-year deal with Algorand, right? So
that's right.
I feel like that should have had some positive effect on the money flow and the way they did these things. I will also say, though, staff seemed extremely high. I'm not trying to point fingers, but like if you looked at how the public events were run, from what I've heard, from what I've seen in listings and charts and things, like they had a lot of staff. And if you want to run a good production, great. That's how it works. But
right. I mean, they had a very complicated production.
I would argue that they probably should have gone sim only for everything to cut all these costs, so they didn't have to lay off all these employees, or done layoffs ahead of time and planned all this out and done severance packages and like actually done things properly to put the company where you can make it. Because it feels like what is 2 to 4 live events a year doing to really, it feels like you're burning money on something that nobody finds out about, nobody sees, and people can't attend, right?
I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if your thing is live racing, and that was DRL's thing, we're going to do live racing on television, right? And we're going to up the visibility of drone racing in a way that MultiGP style racing doesn't do. If you're doing, 9 live races, a television season, that's a thing. If you're doing, 8 sim races and 4 live races, that's like that. You're not the thing anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's I've complained before about it. It got a little better, but promotion was hard to find. Links for events were hard to find. Schedules were difficult. And who knows? Maybe they'll try to continue on. But with most of their staff gone, I don't see live events happening much unless they're going to
No, you need staff for live events.
One thing I've seen suggested, I don't know how true this is or how this would work out, but one thing I've heard is, hey, we needed to get payroll together, so we laid off everybody, so we can figure out our money, get everything back together, and then we could try to do live races with contractors. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen or how that will work out, but that's what I've heard rumored.
I don't blame them for not going sim only. What you seem to be suggesting is we look at the numbers, We see that our company is losing money. We see that we can't afford to continue doing live races, that we will eventually run out of money because the income isn't there. At that point, you transition, you pivot to something different, and you go sim only, and now you have to let go of some of your staff, but you suddenly have enough money to keep the company alive for a much, much longer time. But the flip side of that...
back to that, right? Like, yeah.
Well, that's the theory,
you don't
but
the company out doing lives that you can't afford. Like, I don't know. Or maybe they were seeing uptick every race, and then suddenly it died. But like, if you weren't for 3 years, like, why do you keep doing it? I don't know. I'm not running the company. I don't see the books. But to me, it never seemed feasible the way it was performing for the last 2 to 3 years.
Right, like 2020, and they went sim only as a temporary stopgap to keep the company alive and keep the season going. But then, like, I wonder if they just didn't recover. I don't blame them for not going sim only forever, though, because it's like saying that if what you want to do is make a great car, but you're failing to make a great car, that you should pivot and make bicycles. It's like, no, I'm going to make a great car, or I'm going to run this company out of business and go bankrupt, right? I certainly, but they weren't doing that because they weren't saying, I'm going to do 10 live races a season, come hell or high water. They were kind of in the middle, and I think that in a way that's worse than just like fucking pick a side.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it would have been last year this happened if they had done all the live races, right? So like, yeah, I don't know.
What happened to the $100 million algorithm? So first of all,
I'm guessing
when they started getting into crypto and weird mobile apps, that was the sign that shit wasn't good over there.
Yeah,
and I think
we talked a lot about that. Yeah.
We talked a lot about, like, what are you doing, DRL? Are you really that hard up? You know? But what happened to the $100 million?
So I suspect there was no official, when you look at the official press release, no numbers were given. Right. It was all outside people telling people what numbers were. Yeah. I expect it was $100 million over 5 years, either on contingency, on stock, on other pieces, or both, right?
Or could it have been $100 million in weird-ass crypto?
Right, yeah, who knows? We really don't know. Was 20 million in crypto? We don't know.
Because 2021 was like the height. Was that the height of the NFT crypto craze? So Algorand comes in and is like, we'll give you money, not cash. They gave him, my guess would be that they gave him a little bit of cash, but nobody's just going to write you a $100 million check and say, cool, have fun. Maybe there were contingencies, or maybe Algorand, now when crypto went bleh, Algorand couldn't pay out, couldn't make good. I don't know. We're just speculating. This is the sign, Blunty, that your company is in trouble. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think, it's just like, if you even, putting aside all the other stuff, if you watch the broadcasts of DRL, I think they're terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's half of it is ads, and like the other half is like things people don't really care about. Like, oh, here's a build series that nobody wants to watch, and we're putting in so we can pad the 10 races that we have into 2 to 3 hours, so we can fill this block, right? I don't know. I've never really appreciated how they've done it, and I feel like it hasn't ever put like the racing first. It puts like all the other BS first, and like tries to build stories that nobody cares about around it and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I hope that they can find a way out of this. But that being said, I'll say that leads us to our next story, because while DCL has had layoffs and everything, Street League has been going great. And in fact, they just had their championship, and they've done crypto. They've actually been doing NFT and crypto for a while. We talked about that before, to use it as buy-ins for Street League, but it seems to be doing good for them. So,
it's funny as shit, because Street League is in some ways the kind of open source version of DRL.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Well, you proved that 7-inch racing is popular.
I feel like there was an attempt to work with DRL to like build something like this before, and it didn't happen, so they just did it anyway. But I might be misremembering the story. But anyway, yeah. So Headsup has won the Street League Championship. That's happened. For you, those of you that don't know, Street League is a 7-inch spec racing situation that's like similar in many ways to DRL. You know, you're required to have LEDs, I believe, and build to a certain spec and weight, and you have software that you run to limit your RPMs on your motors and all these things, so you can compete in a spec-like way, just similar to DRL.
Oh, that turn was nasty. Sorry, Blunty.
Right now we're watching Charles Dubicki, who came in second place in the Street League Championship, and then Sean Ames, who I want to give a shout out, came in third. We've got links to some of their stuff.
Oh, that's so tight!
Also want to give a shout out to Dallas Drone Racing for putting this event on.
These guys are so damn good. Flying this freaking boat of a quadcopter. This boat, absolute. What's the spec weight? Is it like 1.5 kilograms?
Like 1180. Yeah,
1180. Okay, not quite 1.5.
Something like that.
This freaking boat of a 7-inch, just skimming it through the turns. It's really interesting how people who are good at things are just good at them. Look at that. It's like, it's the quadcopter. It's not the pilot.
1,280 grams.
These turns are so nasty. Amazing. Amazing. Kudos to hometown boy, Knoxville hometown boy, Evan Turner, for winning. Anybody who said that he was going to lose his edge because now he's running a company and flying around the world, being a famous, not that famous actually, but doing all kinds of crazy events. Well, there you go. He's still a winner. So congrats to all the winners.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a little podium here. Yep.
And last but not least, we're going to talk about the DCL, the Drone Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
Long thought as a somewhat competitor to DRL, like the DRL of Europe and of the other lands than the USA. Yeah, so we wanted to let you know that DCL Split 2, they are doing all sim stuff, and Split 1 was all sim. Okay. And Split 2 was all sim as well, and they're starting on September 25th. I believe that's because of where it's at, so I believe that's September 24th at 3 p.m. CST in the United States. They'll be doing it, and we've got a link in the show notes to their YouTube channel where you can see those streamed flights, and they've already got it scheduled, so you can get planned up to watch that.
And you can download the DCL simulator. They're running, obviously, in the DCL simulator. They're running these leagues. DCL was always exciting. It was team-based racing, which is something I hadn't seen before. The teams would build quads, and they would, rotate pilots and so forth. And just a different take on racing, which is normally very individualistic. Are these... Oh, go ahead.
The way they're doing it this year is the teams competed in Split 1 earlier for the first series. So we had a winner come out of that, which was Raiden Racing. And now they're going to do a second series, Split 2. So we'll have a team come out of Split 2 as the winner. And then I believe if there's two different teams there, they'll compete at the end for the grand prize.
Gotcha. I'm trying to full screen a video, but I have failed to do it. There we go. So... It was, if you look up some of the old footage of the live DCL races, it was really cool to see them just flying through the European countryside with these giant inflatable gates. Anyway, lots of sim racing. That's where the world is going, apparently. Sim racing. The FAA can't get you when you're in the simulator, Blunty.
That's very true. Yeah, they do not have jurisdiction in the simulator.
Juris my diction.
All right. All right. So yeah, that's our event news. So we've also got another piece of news for you. We wanted to give a shout out to a page on Facebook. Jack Russell FPV wanted to let you know about the UK Bando resource for FPV pilots on Facebook. And he would like to ask you to join that. So you can hop in there and find some bandos, share bando locations, and find out where bandos are in the UK. So yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I have such a boner for UK bandos. Sorry, kids. Apologize for that language. After watching, is it Holt Blackheath, I think is his name. I always want to flip his name and call him Heath Black Holt. It's one of those two. After watching his content, I have so much excitement for UK bandos. This places he flies just looks so epic. And it's nice to see FPV pilots actually trying to share their locations instead of protecting them and keeping them secret. We'll see how well that goes.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, there's a link to that in the video description, and you can go ahead and join up. I have joined up, even though I'm not in the UK.
Next up, we've got something called Acrobatix FPV. The Acrobatix FPV Challenges, which I hadn't heard of, is actually almost over, but we want to share it with you because we got news about it. And there is still a chance for anyone to be able to win this because of the way the points have been distributed. So Acrobatix FPV is a little competition that Acrobatix FPV puts on for people. It's kind of similar to iGao a little bit. It's basically like every month, I believe, you get a new challenge, and then you post videos of that challenge. They rate people on those challenges, and then you get points based on that. And then you move through the season collecting these different points and trying to be the winner at the end. This is put on by, Acrobatix FPV, Mark Kunoff, and then Donovan Tierra, which is Headmaster, which we know from his No Talking Trick tutorials, is the one who sets up the tricks and stuff. And then Lumpy FPV is also in here.
Oh God! Well, so no one will win because he's the best.
I think he's helping assist in managing. I don't think he's
not competing. Okay.
Yeah.
These look fun. This looks really fun. I might just try each of these in a video.
Yeah.
Right?
So basically, for anybody who's interested in hopping in at the last minute here, you can do that. So basically. If you get in, you can compete the previous challenges for league points, even if you weren't here when they were there. And then you would need to win one or more of the last 3 challenges. But the last last monthly challenge is 25 league points versus 10 for normal. So you kind of get a chance to get in there and take it if you go in there and knock all those challenges out, get some points back on, and try to win one of those last 3 monthly competitions.
Just because it's the February challenge doesn't mean that since you missed it, you're out. You could go back. Yeah. I think you get
some credit. I don't think you can win it, but I think you can get some credit towards.
You still have to win.
Yeah,
but you can still get. That's interesting. That's really cool. Yeah. All right. Well, acrobatixfpv.com with an X.
Yes.
All right. What is the fastest drone? What's the speed record right now, Blunty?
224 point something. 225 miles an hour is the current fastest speed record.
I thought it was like 198.
It got set earlier this year, but to 225.
Wow,
I think
we
covered that on the news.
Well, you think I would remember that? Okay. Was that official? Was that like Guinness verified? I'm sorry. You're trying to introduce the story, and I'm just talking over you.
Yes, that was a Guinness verified record.
Okay, fine.
This one is not. This one is still pending verification, but he had people around, and it seems like it was done in the right way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is a faster flight, basically, a faster record.
Okay. Oh my goodness. We got a little bit of okay, backstory. Link to this video in the video description. Dude in a...
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. 15-minute video. We're not going to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I think there's timestamps maybe in the description, or maybe I was
seems
confused.
like something someone would do.
I thought I saw them, but I could be wrong.
Maybe in the description. Fun. Oh, here we go. Why are these not showing up in the... Hey, fix your timestamps. He's messed them up somehow. YouTube doesn't recognize him. Oh, he even credits Ryan Lederman. Interesting. So he's using Ryan Lederman's... Ryan Lederman set the 198 mile an hour run.
Well, he also set the 225. Yeah.
Oh, we did cover... That's why I'm confused. Because I was thinking of Ryan Lederman, and it's the same guy.
Which is about an hour outside of Cape Town. And we're going to do the first actual flight with the full setup that could possibly break the record. So I don't know if it will, but I'm really hoping that today we can do it. Really nervous for the drone to fall out of the sky or fail or something, but...
All right.
Okay, coming back, Darren.
Wait. Does he do 2 directions? No.
Okay, coming back, Darren.
Yes, he does.
Oh, okay, we're falling.
They did an average with 100 meters in both directions.
At least you're
nice.
Close.
Despite my friend Cloney's best efforts to cheer me up, this was definitely the most heartbreaking part of this entire journey.
Second world record attempt?
With the drone fully rebuilt, it was finally time to do another world record.
Are we just ruining the payoff? Okay. Let's not ruin the payoff of his video. I want to see it, but I'll watch it on my own, and you guys should too. Go ahead over. He's got 541 views. How does this video only have 541 views? Crazy. Let's go ahead and get that view count up and watch this guy go 225 miles an hour. Can you frickin' believe it?
Yeah, even faster than that. So yeah, pretty cool.
225. Wait, how fast was it?
The old record was 225. This record is 247 averaged. That's
insane.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a lens cone for aero, bad for life. When you get up to this, when you get up above, let's say around 100 miles an hour, certainly around 150 miles an hour, somewhere between around 150 and 100, it's all about aero. Ryan Lademan set the 198 mile an hour record, and I was like, I interviewed him before he set the record officially, and I was like, so what's your secret? You running 10S, you running 8S, you running 12S? And he's like, nah, 6S, 2207. It's all about aero and prop selection, and not just raw power. So if you're trying to break the record, that's the direction you need to go. Yeah, awesome. Well, congratulations to Luke.
Yeah, hopefully the Guinness can officiate that, and we all have our problems with Guinness, but hopefully he gets it there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and do It's Barely News, just little stories that we wanted to tell you about, but we don't have a lot to say about. Before we do that, we'll get the super chat out of the way. Just one. Thank you for £5, Smudge202. Just saying thanks for the content. Thank you, Smudge, for the donation. What do we got for It's Barely News, Blunty?
All right. First up in It's Barely News, we have Joby Aviation, who is making a big old pledge. And this is the first thing we've seen like this for EVTOL. If you don't know, EVTOL is electric vertical takeoff and landing. So basically a big drone that can transfer to plane mode, and fly with more efficiency than a drone could. That's the idea behind VTOL and EVTOL. This is essentially a promise and working with the city of Dayton to build a $500 million manufacturing plant for VTOL in Dayton. And they're talking about supporting that with $325 million in state and local incentives. 2,000 jobs would be created from this. 140-acre site, 500 aircraft a year. We haven't seen anything like this yet with AAM eVTOL at all. We've seen just small-scale stuff, a couple of people building a couple units, showing it off, doing bespoke builds where you order it, years ahead of time, things like that. We haven't seen anything like this. Now, I will say, no ground has been broken. Ground is planned to be broken next year. I don't think anybody's actually on the hook for the contract, but the city got up with him and made an announcement. So it seems like
somebody thinks it's real.
They're rolling forward with this, is what it looks like. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. Especially because this isn't one of the eVTOLs that we've really seen so far. This seems like a new eVTOL in the market. So.
Yeah. I mean, the city could be announcing it just because they want to hold them to it. And they think if they make public pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Battery-free origami micro flyers take flight.
Yeah, this is a neat little story. Obviously, it's barely news, but if you skip forward a little bit, you'll kind of get an idea what's going on. We've looked before at little drones that are sort of like seed leaves, that like where the leaf will fall, and it can kind of be controlled with the movement of the material. And this is kind of doing that, where these are powered by solar power, and they're little chips on this flexible membrane, and then they can use that solar power to orient themselves in flight, which is really just a sustained hover in a wind tunnel. So that's kind of neat, and I thought it was kind of cool.
Is it like it's sort of bending the little flaps to change how the air flows over it and hold itself in place?
Yes, I believe that's the case. Yeah, it's just slightly doing little bends with. I'm not sure if it's like I'm not sure what the actuation situation is.
Wow.
But, yeah, there it is. It's like a big actuator in the middle that pushes and pulls on the little hinges. Yeah.
Huh. That's freaky. That's really cool. I can't imagine like what the intended purpose is of it, but it'll probably just be used to kill people soon. No, too dark.
Poison delivery system.
Yeah. Right, little poison darts falling. Yeah, obviously. All right, well.
All right. Last but not least, you might have had gyro issues on your quad, but I bet it was less of a deal than it was. It might have been more of a deal, actually, because they planned ahead. On the Ingenuity from Mars, we've seen a lot of flights go through. In fact, 53 flights went pretty well. I think they maybe landed a couple early. None of them really had any major failures. 52, but yeah. So 53, the flight 53 was expected to be 136 a second mission. Instead, it executed the first half of its autonomous journey. If you don't know, this is the drone that's on Mars. We've covered many times. Mm-hmm. That's still flying on Mars. We just have to say that again. It had to stop halfway through its flight, and this is the first time they've ever triggered the land now contingency. And so basically, it got confused because its IMU data did not match what it saw on the ground. It thought it was in a different orientation in the gyro than it saw from the camera. It couldn't correct it, so it just went into land now mode and landed right where it was, which is what they put in there.
How is it able to land if its gyro data was all messed up?
Because it can still use work its way down, and there's like confidence levels, I guess it has on each of the images and the gyro. It was able to get down to the ground instead of doing forward flight. And then another flight after worked okay. So it seems like this was kind of taken care of. This was a problem for like flight 6 way early on, but they patched it and it was working okay otherwise. Maybe you changed filtering. Who knows what actually happened there, right? But it's kind of interesting to know that even on Mars they have IME problems.
All right, well. You send a drone to Mars, I guess you expect some problems. We just got a super chat.
Not to be flying after a year and a half or however long it's been.
Yeah. You stop. You guys are over delivering. They're going to start reducing the specs on these things because they're lasting so much longer than planned.
It's been over 2 years. This thing's been on Mars flying.
I barely have any drones I actually have a couple drones that are more than 2 years old. I don't know if they still fly though. We got a super chat here from Ivan Afimov for $5 to let us know. Oh, did you know this? Did you know that Evan Turner had won the Street League Championship? Dubicki takes second and Sean Ames takes third. Good to know. HDZero and HQ props for the win. Okay, well, we should have covered that today, Blunty. But thank you for the super chat.
We did.
Oh! Thank you for the super chat. Just being an asshole. He sent me. I did that interview with him, which was amazing. It was really fun. And during the interview, I was like, "Will you please send me a shit pilot hoodie?" And he did. So I finally, nice. I love that. Excuse me.
All right. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the stories. The end of the news.
It is.
Yeah, and I figure we should probably let people know this will be the last news for a little while.
For a fair while. Because I have got some work I'm going to be doing that's going to require me to travel until like November. I'm going to be gone.
Yes.
I will still be posting content on the main channel. There will be no more live streams, and this is going to be the longest trip I've pretty much ever been on, so I'm not sure how that's going to go.
To give you guys an idea, tentatively we're talking about November 12th coming back.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a while, and that'll be all the Q&As and the news we won't be doing until then again. So.
Yep. Unless you guys can talk Blunty into doing the news all by himself.
Not a fan.
No.
I like doing it with you. I like being here with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm not going to say where I'm going or why I'm going, but I am going to say if you see a new teaser trailer from a Michael Bay movie, I was not the pilot. No, I had to go there for a minute. No. All right, guys, that's going to do it. AJSR71 says, what? JB was just gone for a month. Believe me, I know. Yeah. I know. It's going to be an interesting
me too.
third quarter.
I said it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, geez, you're leaving again? Okay.
I know.
All right.
I know. It's been an interesting third quarter, but that's life. But I love you all, and I'll miss you terribly, and I'll be back. So, good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.